5, 4, 3, 2. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Gamerhouse Marathon. We have Ninja Gaiden Black by Rzr360. So take it away.
All right, so time will begin in 3, 2, 1, go. So this is, yeah, thank you. So to start off, I'm just going to give a little introduction to the game. This is Ninja Gaiden Black. It's a 3D action platformer made by Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo. If you're familiar with a lot of their more modern games like Neo, then you're probably pretty familiar with Team Ninja as making kind of difficult games. Koei Tecmo is also the original creators of the NES era Ninja Gaiden games, so they have a stake in the field for sure. Now, this game in particular was made in 2005 off of a kind of a remake of the original Ninja Gaiden 3D game that came out in 2004, because the director of the game was told that he made it too easy. So they decided to make it a lot more difficult, and oh boy did they. This game is one of the hardest games that I have ever played personally, and a lot of people who've played this game as well would say the same thing. This game is not for the faint of heart, for sure, and the run is similar to. There's a lot of things that are going to be going on throughout the run. I'm going to try to do my best to explain things as they happen, so that you guys can kind of like follow along as well, and maybe learn a little bit about the game and how to play it as well. The point of the game, so to start off with, is going to be kind of like moving through these chapters, and the chapters are going to play out in a similar function each time. So this first chapter kind of sets the framework for the rest of the game from beginning to end, and what's happening is I'm moving around the chapter in around these kind of platforming segments, trying to collect the key items in order to progress to the end. So the first key item I picked up was the Fangs of the Samurai, and I'm going to use that to get a key. I also picked up some other useful items for the run as well, which is a Talisman of Rebirth, which is basically a re-life. If Ryu were to die, instead he comes back with full health. And a Lives of the Thousand Gods, which the Lives of the Thousand Gods is a health bar increase. Now, we do have a certain number of health bar increases that we will get throughout the run. We will not collect all of the ones in the game, so our health bar will be considerably lower than what's quote-unquote intended. But we can't skip all of them either, because if we were to try to get to some of the later bosses with the base level health bar, we would actually just get one shot, and yeah, that's would be rip. So these segments here are, I'm going to be fighting through these enemies because the doors are going to be locked, and then right after this fight is actually the first boss. Now, the first boss in this game is not a slouch by any means. Like, he's very brutal. He attacks very fast and he blocks a lot. So I will actually need a little bit of concentration as I fight him. So give me just a second. Alright, and that's Mirai. So yeah, Mirai is he's brutal. A lot of people actually rage quit at this boss the first time they played it, because the game kind of just throws you at him and expects you to kind of deal with a lot of the things he's going to be doing with very little knowledge. There's a lot of deep mechanics in this game, and it doesn't tell you any of it out of the bat. You kind of have to experiment and play around with it. And Mirai is very punishing if you don't really understand a lot about the game. And yeah, he's even with an experienced player, he can kill you very easily on higher difficulties, or even lose you a lot of time in the speedrun for sure, because he can just block randomly as much as he wants. So a lot of the bosses in this game are going to be very RNG heavy as well, and we'll get to some of those later. So in this chapter, after chapter 1, we find out that Ryu's village is under attack. So the first chapter was all a training exercise for Ryu. So he was going around killing a bunch of Mirai's minions and underlings because they were too weak. And, you know, since Ryu had the ability to kill them, they obviously didn't deserve to live anymore as ninjas. So Ryu just kills a bunch of them and then moves on. But then, yeah, his village becomes under attack. So we're trying to get back to his village to save it. So one of the things that I picked up along the way was a Nympho Scroll, which is the Nympho Scroll of Fire Wheels. And you can see now that I have like this flaming orb underneath my health bar. That's the number of Nympho uses that I have. And then the other item I picked up again was smoke bombs, but I'll cover those later. So in the first chapter, one of the main goals that we need for the run is to get 1,000 essence, which yellow essence is the currency in this game. We need 1,000 in order to buy another Nympho Scroll, which we're going to use in this chapter, because Nympho is extremely powerful. It does a lot of things. One of the main things it does is it gives Ryu invincibility frames. And then the other main thing is it does a ton of damage. So the scroll that we're going to try to buy is going to be the Scroll of Inferno. And the Scroll of Inferno has a kind of like a 2-hit part, where the first part is the initial casting. Ryu kind of gets enveloped in flames, and that actually does damage when an enemy comes into direct contact with Ryu. And then the second part is a shot that Ryu's going to shoot out, kind of like a fireball, that's going to explode and deal a lot of damage as well. So we're going to equip the bow that we got from Ayane, we're going to equip Inferno, and then we're going to come into this fight, which is going to be a wave of horses. So there's going to be a spear horse and a bow horse. Now fighting them normally is really annoying, so that's why we use Nympho against them. And then I'm just going to kill them as quickly as possible. I want to make sure that I kill both of them at the same time though, because there's going to be another pair that's going to spawn in, and I want to make sure that they spawn in at the same time, so that when I cast Inferno again, I'll hit them both right as they come in. But this guy ended up living, which is fine. But yeah, we clear them up pretty quickly. So now, the reason we equip the bow is actually for the boss fight, which is Masakado. He's also going to be like a spearman on a horse. He's a bit more annoying than those guys. So Masakado, and he's being very aggressive right now. So what we want to try to do is actually avoid getting these mages into our melee range. But when Masakado comes in and hits us, sometimes the camera direction changes. So we can manipulate the mages by using the camera properly. As long as they're in frame, they will not come close to us. They'll stay at a distance and shoot at us, which is what we want them to do. We don't want them to get close to us. But Masakado is being a jerk. So we were able to take him down eventually, but that's fine. So the thing is, we try to shoot him with hip fire from Ryu, and Ryu's not the most accurate bowman, despite being a ninja. He's really not that good with the bow. He misses a lot. And Masakado, also, at the same time, even if he does get hit, he can hyper armor the arrows and just not take any damage. So we have to kind of deal with that RNG throughout this part. So it's a very reset heavy spot on the speedrun. If he can lose you a lot of time, and he can be hyper aggressive. But we've got it. We were able to clear him, and we're moving on to chapter 3. So after the cutscene with Masakado, we are introduced to a bunch of characters that we don't get to see because we skipped the cutscenes. One of them though is Doku, who's a black-clad samurai, and he actually kind of kills Ryu. But Ryu gets brought back to life and goes on a quest for revenge against Doku. So he finds out Doku works for the Holy Vigor Emperor, and we're trying to get to Tehran, which is the capital city of the Vigor Emperor, or Vigor Empire. And that's why we're on this airship, because it's the only way to actually get there. So I'm gonna, oh my gosh. There we go. So I do want to mention something at this part here. You can see I'm leaving that yellow essence floating. So I'm doing what's called an essence pull. There's a special technique in this game called ultimate techniques where Ryu charges his sword until it glows. There's two ways to charge it. You can charge it normally, or you can use an essence to charge it. By starting to charge it, and when there's an essence nearby, I'll absorb the essence and do the ultimate technique. And so we're going to do that because it does a lot of damage to these enemies. And I'm going to leave the other essences there as well. So by leaving those essences up, I can use them to pull into the next fights. Now, I do have to be kind of quick. The essence only lasts about 8 seconds of in-game time, which is time that I'm controlling Ryu. So I do have to move very quickly. If the essence disappears, then I won't get the ultimate technique when I jump in. Now, I should mention as well, there are 2 levels to ultimate techniques. There's there's the first level, which we call the essence technique, or ET. We call it that because it can be charged with just the yellow essence. Then there's the actual ultimate technique, or UT, which is a full charge, which takes a little bit longer and has a multi-hit combo assigned to it. We don't want to use the ultimate technique right now because the animation for it is really long. And if we get a blue essence or a red essence from these enemies, then we'll actually get a full charge instead of the single charge. So we want to guarantee that when we kill these enemies, we get a yellow essence. And we can actually do that by killing them with an ultimate technique. So when you kill an enemy with an ultimate technique, they will always spawn money, which is, like I said earlier, the yellow essence, because they'll be worth 3 times their normal amount if you kill them with just the standard ET, or the first level, and if you kill them with a full UT, they will be worth 7 times as much. So we kill them with the ultimate techniques to guarantee that they'll spawn the yellow essence and not a blue essence, because we don't want the full charge right now. It's just the animations for it is just too long. So these guys, we don't have enough time to get an essence from the last fight. So we break a box, which is going to spawn an essence in this fight, and then we just chain the ETs throughout. Now this part I do have to be really careful. If I fall off the ship, whoa, what is going on? Okay. That was weird. Ryu wanted to do some acrobatics for everyone. But if I fall off the ship at all, Ryu will just die automatically. There's no Lives of the Thousand, or there's no Talisman of Rebirth for it. It's what's called a hazard death. And yeah, Ryu will just die, which we do not want. So that we're gonna knock that guy off the side so that we don't have to deal with him. That is actually why I saved before doing that last fight. I do not want to have to deal with Ryu dying, and there are no checkpoints in this game. So if I die, then I go back to whatever my last save file was. So yeah, I'm gonna save at some key spots where I could very easily die, so that I don't have to start from chapter 1 again. So moving across this wire is pretty slow, but there's not really a faster way to do it. Next, we're going to come up towards the end of this chapter. We actually did everything we needed for the progression part of this chapter. And I'm going to equip some items coming up in a moment. I'm going to equip the Firewheel Scroll, which was the first Nympho I actually picked up. And I'm going to equip the Lunar, which I also picked up in chapter 2, and the Smoke Bombs. So there's a lot that's going to be going on here with the fire wheels and the lunar. That's going to be more or less self-explanatory. But the smoke bombs are actually something I really want to talk about because they're kind of an overlooked item casually. The smoke bombs are actually a very powerful weapon in the game. They do a lot. They make Ryu somewhat... they make him lose... like the enemy's targeting on him. They are like aggro, I guess is what you could call it. But they also reduce enemy armor, so some enemies can block you or dodge your attacks. If you smoke bomb though, an enemy will lose that armor for a moment, but we're going to use it to distract Dynamo starting off, because he's going to think we're actually further away. So he's going to charge his weapon twice for us. And then we're going to beat him with the Lunar and use Fire Wheels to, first off, dodge his attacks. And Fire Wheels, you can see, like, has, like, this continual, like, flame around Ryu. And that's going to continually do damage. And it does a lot of damage to Dynamo since we stay so close to him. And yeah, that was a really nice fight. He can do some pretty crazy stuff. He can grab you, which I dodged using smoke bombs. And he can also do like this bubble where he makes this force field. And yeah, that loses like 10 seconds because you can't hit him during it. And yeah, it's really annoying. But so after the airship crashes, we land in the city of Tehran. And we're going to make our way through the city. We get told by Ayane, who's the purple ninja who's throwing all these shurikens at us. We get told by her that at Han's bar, might be some ways we can learn some information about Doku and his whereabouts. So we're going to try to make our way to Han's bar. Now, this is one of the more unique chapters because it is one of the only chapters that does not have a boss fight in it. There are 2 chapters in this game that don't, and yeah, this is the first one. And it's just going to be moving through the city and getting to where we need to go. So there is some stuff I want to talk about for movement. You'll see I'm mostly doing what's called roll jumping, which is where I'll do like this kind of a rolling animation. The reason I do that is because there's on jumps and on recover or on rolls, there's recovery frames. So I'm using the roll and then the jump to cancel the recovery of each, so I don't have to wait for Ryu to readjust. Now there are more ways than one to actually cancel those recoveries, and we'll use a couple of the other ones throughout the run. But one other one that I want to mention is called on landing jumps, because I will use that for movement a few times, which is where I'll just chain jumps together. Those aren't actually something you can normally just like spam A and do. You do actually have to, there's a trick to it. You have to reset your stick and press A as soon as Ryu lands on, like on the same frame Ryu lands. So it is technically a quote-unquote frame-perfect trick, but it is pretty lenient as well. It just takes a little bit of getting used to get down good. So one of the very important items that I picked up in this chapter as well is the Spirit of the Devils. Spirit of the Devils is an additional Nympho slot. As I mentioned, Nympho is very powerful, and it's very important for the run. We're going to have some parts of the run where we're actually just going to cast as much Nympho as we possibly can to deal with a lot of enemies. And yeah, so Nympho is very important. So that item, even though it's kind of out of the way, it actually saves a ton more time to pick it up than it does to skip it. So here we make it to Han's bar. We meet with the bouncer, who tells us basically we need a ticket. And it just so happens that Muramasa, the local shop owner, is actually having a promotion where he is giving out tickets to Han's bar as long as you buy something from his shop. So we're going to go meet Muramasa, and we're going to buy something from him. Simply, we're just going to buy an upgrade for the Dragon Sword. We get our Dragon Sword level 2, and that's going to give us some really cool stuff with that. But first, we get our ticket, and something I do want to do is Nympho refills at the beginning of every chapter, so I want to use my Spirit of the Devil now. And I actually did something with it. I did one of the only glitches we have in the entire game, which is a Nympho dupe. So the Spirit of the Devil, we can actually dupe it, and so I got an additional Nympho slot from it just then by causing the menu to rapidly transition. Before the Spirit of the Devil actually consumes, I can make the game think it consumed it, but actually consume something else. So it consumed an elixir of life instead, one of my healing potions, and gave me the Nympho slot, so I could use the Spirit of the Devils again. So now I have an additional Nympho slot, which is going to let me do some really cool routing in this chapter by making some of the fights a lot easier. So now we're going to move through Tehran. Oh, Get stuck there. We're gonna move through Tehran. We get we get a key here, which opens up a whole other section of the city, and there's going to be some progression of movement throughout here as well. We're going to continue to use our smoke bombs in an interesting fashion as well to get another skip, or a type of skip anyways. So there are some non-glitches skips in this game. There's actually very few glitches in general that work for this game. The dupe is really the only useful one. In fact, this game is very well made in that regard. Like they kind of made it very hard to break this game. In fact, the dupe being one of the only things, like I said, and you could go up to 10 Nympho with the dupe, but it's not an easy trick to even pull off in the first place. So even if you wanted to go for it, you wouldn't have, like, it wouldn't be free at all. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the smoke bombs to distract those ninjas. Now, normally, I can't open this door if enemies are nearby. And I can't pull the lever either. So hopefully, if I did it right... Oh, and I think I was just a little too far off on the angle. That's okay. I can get to that lever before the ninjas catch up to me from the smoke bombs. But even if they do catch up to me, I can just despawn them by going out of the tunnel and then right back into it. It saves about 7 seconds to skip having to despawn them. But so next we're gonna go back up this way because we lowered the drawbridge. We're gonna go across it, and we're gonna have some fights coming up. The first fights are going to be very similar to the fights that we had in the last chapter, where we're basically just going to spawn camp the enemies. We know where they're coming from, and so we can preemptively get there and deal with them as they come in. And that's one of the key things with a lot of the fights that we're going to be doing here. There are going to be some fights later on that do not have set spawn points, and they're going to be much more RNG heavy. But we'll deal with those when we get there. So here I'm going to equip the dragon sword again and shurikens, and then I'm just going to do 2 ETs off the essence of the first soldiers and kill the next set of soldiers. So I do want to talk about the level 2 dragon sword. So whenever you level up a weapon in this game, it increases the amount of damage it does, and it also gives you access to some new techniques. So we have some new combo techniques that we can do, and we're going to showcase some of them right here. So the first one we get is Flying Swallow, which is this move where we jump and do a slash towards the enemies. It actually does quite a bit of damage. And the next one we'll talk about once we get to the boss fight. So here we have some Dino Fiends. And we're going to take care of them by casting some Nympho and then doing a XY combo. And then I'm going to finish this one off by using WTs, which you can see this is the long animation that I was mentioning earlier. And it does a lot of damage to the Dino Fiends, so it's actually really worth doing to them. So here we have the next boss. This is Hedgehubis. I'm going to re-equip Fire Wheels because I want to try to get a 1 cycle on him. So first things first, we need to take out these tentacles in order to actually damage the boss. So first we do XYXX, and then let Ryu land, and then we do a UT. So then we wait for the tentacles to spawn in. I'm going to charge a UT, wait for them to get close, and then cut them both off at the same time. And then I'm going to do XYXXX, and that's going to finish him off. Which XYXXX is the new one we got, where he does like these bunch of slashes in the air, and does like a spinning slash down at the end of it. It does quite a bit of damage. So that's Hedgehubis, and finishing up chapter 5. So now we move on to chapter 6. Chapter 6 is one of the more long chapters in the game, and very movement heavy and RNG heavy. We are going to have, this is one of the chapters where we're going to have a lot of fights where the enemies aren't going to spawn in the same locations every time. It's going to be random, and it's actually going to make a big difference in how quickly we can actually finish this chapter up. But first we have to get to the monastery. So I do want to talk about the story again to catch you up. So we've come to Tehran. We were looking for Doku, and we don't find him. But we do meet some other characters. We meet Rachel, and we meet Gamov. Gamov, there's not really much to talk about. He's kind of a creepy dude. You'll see him every now and then. You actually saw him like for a second. He's the green trench coat dude. He's not really all that important. Rachel, however, she's a fiend hunter, and she so those red like dinosaur fiends, she actually killed one of the first fiends that Ryu ever saw, and she's actually a really powerful person and a good friend of Ryu's, mostly because of this whole ordeal. Now she's on her own quest to find Doku because she's looking for her sister. We find out Rachel is a fiend hunter because she has fiend blood in her, and Doku used the fiend blood of her twin sister to turn her twin sister into a greater fiend, whose name is Alma. And so Rachel is hunting Alma to try to free her from the curse, as well as Doku to get revenge for corrupting her sister. So Rachel is a kind of a kindred spirit in that regard. I just seen Mash come into the chat. Hello, Mash. He's a good friend of mine. So here we're gonna have the monk room. This is going to be a one of the more RNG heavy fights. There's going to be a bunch of these flying monks and shadow fiends that we're going to have to deal with. They can be really annoying. Anytime the monks teleport, if they have their own shurikens on them, they'll just completely negate the damage. So I want to, hopefully they don't do that. And the shadow fiends can be very annoying as well. They can dodge a lot of my attacks. And they like to gang up on you too and attack you in a staggered pattern. Just gonna wait for that guy. There we go. Yeah, so one of the ways we can deal with them is doing a counterattack and then just into what's called Fiend Seal, which is where Ryu stabs into them on the ground. Yeah, that deals with them quickly. So we do need to pick up the statue there as well. That is a very important key item, and if you forget that, you have to come back here and pick it up later. So don't forget that, guys. Pick up the statue. So we get the book. We come down to the lower area of the monastery. So Rachel actually is the one who tells us about the underground passage to the monastery, and that it leads to the palace of the Vigor Emperor. And so that's why we're heading down here. Is we're trying to get to the palace to get back to Doku, and B, the reason why Doku attacked our village, which I neglected to mention earlier, was because he was trying to steal the Dark Dragon Blade, which is an evil sword that Ryu's clan is destined to protect. So we want to get revenge on Doku as well as retrieve the sword for our clan. So those are the two main points of Ryu's mission. So we need to get to the palace because the Emperor is actually the one that has possession of the Dark Dragon Blade. So that's why we're heading down to this like secret tunnel area. So that jump is actually scary. I thought about saving before that because if I miss, I actually die there. That's one of those hazard death spots. But I risked it and yeah, we made it, so it's all good. So this part, we're just trying to move down as quickly as possible. So I'm going to try to pass by all these enemies I don't need to fight. And we're going to come up on an elevator. Now, on the elevator, once I start lowering it, there are going to be some enemies that spawn in. I'm not required to kill these enemies at all. The elevator will move with or without them. And this is kind of like an automated segment. But like I said earlier, killing enemies with ultimate techniques gains us money. And we do need a lot of money throughout the run because we are going to be skipping most of the enemies. So I do kind of want to try to kill these enemies with ultimate techniques so that they spawn the proper amount of money. That way I have enough to upgrade as I need. Oh, and I'm already at the bottom. I'm gonna make sure I grab this essence, but I'm gonna leave this guy. I don't really need to kill him. So we do pick up an item or a weapon here. This is the Vagorian Flails. This is actually one of my favorite weapons of the game, and sadly we only use them in this chapter. They're really good in this chapter, but they're not fast anywhere else. But they are a super fun weapon to use. There are actually a lot of weapons in this game that we don't use in the speedrun, which are really cool. There's a laser sword, in fact. Pretty awesome. But yeah, so this part we just clean up these guys as quickly as possible, and once we kill 14 of them, there's going to spawn in a bunch of these zombies. Zombie fiends are kind of slow and derpy, but they do have quite a bit of hit points. But what's cool is the flails actually do a ton of damage to the zombies, so much so that for the ultimate technique, the last part of the ultimate technique is actually enough to kill them. And that guy is being really mean, shooting me from across the room and stuff. So you can see I only hit that zombie for like 2 hits, or 2 or 3 hits on the last part of the ultimate technique, and it automatically kills him. Not sure why that one lived though. It seemed to miss it for a bit. Oh, so the last 2. And that's number 15, so that's the last one. So I'm going to do another essence pull here. I'm going to leave the essence that last zombie spawned, because when I go back onto the elevator, this going back up, this actually is a required fight. I have to kill 3 of these zombies in order to get to all the way to the top, because at halfway up, the button's going to stop. So I want to wait till about 112 and then shoot Inferno. I don't think I got the right ones though. So I am going to clear that one up with the ultimate technique, wait for the button to pop back up. Yeah, so that part is kind of reliant on Ryu's aiming. And then I don't have to kill one of these guys, but I'm going to kill him with an ultimate technique just to get the money. And then yeah, I can just leave. So this next part is we're trying to get all the way back up to the top of the area where we just came down, because we realized there's not really anywhere else to go. But now we have this cool chalice, and there's an altar up there that we can place it on that we saw earlier. We didn't see it because we already knew it was there, but Ryu kind of supposed to be looking around and stuff. Now these zombies, archer zombies, they can be really annoying and shoot you off as you're trying to go up. What I do is I hold and release block at certain points when Ryu's about to land or jump, so that I kind of manipulate when the zombies are going to shoot. They will usually delay their shots if you're holding block. So we try to do that so we can get them to shoot us at points where they really aren't able to hit us. And sometimes they delay even longer, or they don't shoot right away after you've released, and they can still just hit you out of the air though. So now we're at Bone Dragon. And this fight is, we're just going to beat his arms and legs with the flails. The 2 combos I'm going to be doing are XXY and XYY. Both of them, XYY actually does more damage, but it's got longer recovery frames. So I kind of want to use it only if the Bone Dragon's doing certain attacks. And I guess I was just too close. And then yeah, XXY I'm going to use so I can cut it short if I need to. If he does this tail swipe, it actually loses quite a bit of time every time he does it. I don't want him to tail swipe me at all. It's very annoying. this is the last leg. And yeah, he's going to give me a bunch of tail swipes. He's already given me 3. Alright, I thought he was going to give me another one, but I guess he's being nice. And there I go. That is Bone Dragon down. In Chapter 6. So, and I got 6,000 essence in this chapter, which is a lot, and that's really good. That's plenty. Then we come up onto Chapter 7. Chapter 7 has some really cool tech for some skips that we do, as well as one of the best boss fights. So the first part, I'm going to pick up this Lives of 1,000 God, and I'm going to actually equip Fire Wheels. I'm going to use the Lives of the 1,000 Gods. And then I'm going to swap to the Dragon Sword. So goodbye, Vagorian Flails. We will not see you again in this run, sadly. But Dragon Sword is going to be... Dragon Sword is always going to be primarily the weapon we're going to use. But we will use the Lunar at some point as well. So here we just fall down, and we're going to try to bypass these guys before they can shoot us. Which we did, and upgrade the Dragon Sword to level 3. Level 3 gets us some more damage and one of the best techniques in the game for the Dragon Sword and any Dragon Sword copies. It's called Gleaming Blade, and it's where Ryu charges up and does this spin attack. It is very powerful, and it does a lot of damage to enemies and bosses alike. So we will be using Gleaming Blade pretty much whenever we can. Because of just how much damage it does. So you see these zombies, like normally would take a full UT from the Vagorian Flails. They just die to a few spins on the Dragon Sword now. So I should mention though, the Gleaming Blade does have a charge to it. So it charges like an ultimate technique. So I can hold it and charge it longer. And I can absorb essence to make it do a charge attack as well. So it does get more powerful versions as well. So that's the blue room, and we actually do a very unintended strat there, which is called Flying Bird Flip. And I fell here. That's not good. That's okay though. We'll just come back up. I do want to show this part because the platforming here is really cool. But these zombies are going to... Wow, alright. He is being sniper mode today. Okay. That's all right though. Yeah, so the zombies can be kind of variable about how well they can hit you. Hitting me twice there, like in succession, very annoying. Normally they're not that accurate, but they can pretend like they're on a higher difficulty, like Master Ninja level difficulty, and just hit you as much as they want. So here we're going to pick up some more items, and then we're going to have a mini boss fight, who's actually a refight of a boss we've already faced. Everyone's fan favorite, the tentacle monster himself, Hedgehubis, has returned. We just saw him a little bit ago, and we're gonna fight him again, and this time is gonna go a lot differently because level 3 Dragon Sword does a lot of damage. And in fact, I get a 1 cycle because Fire Wheels, Dragon Sword level 3, yeah, he just gets completely melted. You can see the difference between level 2 and level 3 for this weapon, because I had level 2 when I fought him before. So here I'm going to swap back to Inferno, and then I'm going to use this Lives of the 1,000 Gods since I have my menu up. So a lot of the routing for this run as well is making sure that you use your menus sparingly, because every time you menu, the game stops. So we want to try to limit the number of menus as we possibly can, but still optimize what strategies we're going to be doing for what enemies. So we do pay a lot of attention to that. So any wasted menus are bad, and anytime I have to stop to heal as well is a wasted menu. So I want to try to not take damage in select spots as best as I can to avoid having to constantly pause and heal. So here we get 2 key items, which is another statue and the skull key. Skull key opens 2 doors for us. The first one being right there, and then the next one actually back in Tehran. So there's a lot of backtracking in this game. We're going to be revisiting a lot of areas, which is one of the reasons why this game is just absolutely top notch. I will always say this is the best game ever, and it is objectively just the best game ever. I don't think anyone could really argue against that, because that's just how well made this game is. They really put a lot of work into the overall design, the settings, the places, the enemies, how everything moves. Oh. And yeah, it's just there's no other game really like it, to be honest. So there we deal with some spider ninjas, and now we're coming up on one of the best boss fights. This is Alma, Rachel's sister. She can be quite annoying because she can just dodge our attacks. We don't want her to do that. We want to knock her down and then hit her with an XY XXY combo and then Inferno. But she's dodging my Infernos. Okay, that's fine. Here, I'm going to equip the bow as well as a way to save our menu, because we'll use bow in the next chapter. So we can kind of get her in a loop. She can still dodge out of the loop like that, but normally if she's behaving, she'll actually just take all 4 of our Infernos. I am actually going to heal here because she can very easily take my talisman. She does a lot of damage. Alma, behave, please. Yeah, so you can see she's just dodging everything. She's a huge reset point in the run because, yeah, she could just do this pretty much almost endlessly. She's already cost me about a minute. Oh my gosh, Alma, please. Why can't you just behave? I can get guaranteed damage on her, but it won't knock her down. I have to heal again. And there we go. Alright. Well, Alma was a pain in the butt. She is a great boss fight. She's a lot of fun casually, but in speedrun she can be really annoying. And yeah, taking all my heals like that. So this next chapter, because of our attacks on the Doku Monastery, the Tehran military becomes under alert, and so they're acutely aware of our presence, and they happen to hate ninjas, which is weird because their entire city is like built for ninjas to be able to move around in a lot, which honestly I guess also kind of makes sense as to why they would hate ninjas, because like it seems like a huge security risk. But so they're going to try to deal with us. We're going to attempt to eliminate their ability to communicate and mobilize against us. So in this chapter, we're going to deal with their attack. In the next chapter, they're going to deal with our attack. So one of the highlights of this chapter, and you can actually kind of see it flying around, is the helicopter. That's our helicopter girlfriend. She's really annoyed with us. We're not that interested in her anymore, so we're going to break up with her. And hopefully she gets the hint and leaves us alone. But first, we have to deal with all these other guys who are, I guess, like her brothers, who are like upset that we're trying to break up with her. And they're like coming to beat us up, you know, but we just like run away from them because we're like, yeah, we don't really want to deal with you guys. You guys are weird. So we're moving back around through Tehran, and we're actually going to go to an area we've been to before, where we had another fight a few chapters ago. And so yeah, you might recognize this place. Now, what's different is now these turrets and like the center platform grows like a little bit. So that's going to be important because there's the gate over there that's actually going to open. So here's our helicopter girlfriend. We're just going to send her some arrows of rejection and let her know we're not interested anymore. She's going to take the hint and fly off, and we're hopefully just, you know, she moves on with her life and it gets happy. So here we're going to look at this window. This window is unique. It's special. It's got this blue border. These other windows don't have a blue border. So we're going to stare at this window because it's a lot prettier than the other ones. And hey, look, there's an enemy. Oh. Oh, come back. Okay. Normally you can do that in 2 arrows. Sometimes it takes 3. One of those things. Yeah, so we kill that enemy, then we get a vantage from inside the window that we couldn't possibly have from where we were standing. About a really cool item that we're about to pick up. And this is the extra strong bow. It's called the extra strong bow because it's extra strong. It's a lot stronger than the bow that we got from Ayane, which is the weak bow. One of the key differences, other than damage, is actually, so the weak bow has an arrow drop. The strong bow, because it's so much stronger, doesn't have any arrow drop at all. It will just, the arrows perpetually move in a straight line, which makes it a lot easier to shoot things better. See, someone says that they hear the tank is single. Actually, the tank is in a couple with with another tank. So like, that's actually not true. Unfortunately, the helicopter girlfriend is going to be lonely for a little bit. So the reason why Ryu actually rejects the helicopter in the first place is because he falls in love with Alma, and Alma becomes his monster girlfriend. But Alma, you know, she wasn't interested in us. That's why she kept dodging our attacks. So we have to convince Alma to go out with Ryu. That's another key part of this run. So this is the Tehran military base. This is actually one of my favorite chapters in both design and enemies and music. Music and the Tehran military music is just awesome. I love it. And by enemies, I don't mean the bosses. Actually, the bosses are actually kind of bad. But the soldiers, I think, are a really cool enemy. I really like how they look. And the aesthetic of the Tehran military is pretty cool. I do like how they have all these arrows laying around, which none of them use a bow, which also seems kind of counterintuitive. Like they really hate ninjas, but they really try to do everything to get ninjas to succeed here, you know. And coming up is actually a really cool skip, which is one of my favorites in the run and why I like this chapter so much. So this is the train warehouse skip, or where I get to jump onto that platform by doing some clever moves in the air. Instead of having to go onto the other side where you're supposed to go up the stairs and turn on the power, which causes those platforms to move and so that you can jump onto them. But what that does is it also spawns a bunch of drones, and the drones shoot lasers and are really annoying, and they shoot you off the platforms, and yeah, it becomes a huge headache. But we just skip doing any of that by just going up the one side with some clever platforming movement and grabbing the key card that we need to open the next area. So here we're just going to shoot the soldiers. The soldiers are just going to run at us. They're not going to attack us or anything unless they get too close. So as long as we shoot them before they get close to us and not miss, then we should be pretty safe. Yeah, because they're just going to run at us while we're shooting explosives at them. And don't miss, please. Thank you. So completely dependent on my aim. And we just clear these up pretty quick. So now we come to the first boss fight of this chapter, which is the tank. One of the things we get are these armor-piercing arrows, which are really cool. They do quite a bit of damage, and we also get this box. We're going to hide behind this box. Unless the tank moves to the right towards us. But normally we can just hide behind the box, and if the tank is shooting at us, the shell will hit the box, and because the box is completely impervious to any form of explosion or damage, it just keeps us completely safe. So here we're just going to keep shooting these arrows at the tank, hide behind our box, trusty box. Oh, I wanted to jump out, but I kept getting locked by the gunner, but that's okay. I should note that if there's a time where the tank shells will shoot Ryu, you can just jump over them. So keep that in mind. If a tank's ever shooting at you, just remember, jump over the shell. It'll be okay. I'm going to heal here because I don't want to lose my talisman to the next coming up fight. So we refill our arrows. There's going to be 2 soldiers with rocket launchers. The rocket launcher soldiers are super annoying. They're like worse than the bow zombies. Oh. Come here. Stop. Stop. Okay. And guess who's back? Our helicopter girlfriend. She didn't get the hint. So this time with the strongbow and with some armor piercing arrows, we're going to send a much stronger message to her that we're just not that interested anymore. And there we go. Helicopter girlfriend is down for the count. And oh boy, did I take a lot of damage there. Alright, so I'm going to use one of those and re-equip the explosive arrows. We want to save the armor piercing arrows as much as we can. Because they're going to be useful much later. So we're going to stick to predominantly the explosive arrows for now. Which we're going to use to shoot down this tower. Now there are soldiers who are shooting at us. We want them to keep shooting at us. If they stop shooting at us, they can throw a grenade at us. And if they throw a grenade at us, they can knock us out of shooting the bow. So yeah, that was a really good pattern where they didn't throw a single grenade at us. Anytime they do throw a grenade at you, it's just automatic time loss. So here we have 3 of those rocket launcher guys. We just run past them so that we can move on to the next door. Now, I will mention that what's going to happen here is I'm going to enter this door and then I'm going to immediately leave. So normally, you're supposed to go down and check the lower door and see that it's locked and that you need a card key to open it. And in order to get the card key, I actually have to go back up and then kill those 3 soldiers that I just met. If I killed them the first go around, they actually don't spawn the card key. So I have to go down first to meet up with them, kill them by just blasting them all with Inferno, get the card key, and then go ahead and leave. So now that we have the card key, we can end this chapter out. I want to not get hit by these soldiers as best I can, which they weren't too mean to me, luckily, so we just move on. So in this part, Ryu is actually going to crash a train, killing a lot of people. Ryu is very heartless. He doesn't care about any of that. He's just trying to get his revenge. So he's going to do whatever he can to do that. So yeah, you can see the remnants of the train crash around him. So this part is actually kind of works like a loading screen. We're just going to be waiting here for a little bit. So I don't know if there's any announcements that Marathon wants to make here or anything like that. If not, totally cool. Yeah, so we're not really sure why this happens. It only happens on the normal difficulty of this game. No other difficulty actually has this loading screen. Well, and it's not really even a loading screen. It's just like where you just sit here and wait. Yeah, it's just a really peculiar thing in the game. We haven't figured out a way to circumnavigate it either, so if anyone could figure that out. But even better yet, if someone could figure out why Alma blocks all our, or dodges all our stuff, that would be great to know how we can stop that from happening. I would pay someone for that information. So this chapter, chapter 11, the Aqueducts, is another very movement-intensive chapter. The corners and the edges around this area are not typical, so they are kind of interesting to navigate around, and I am going to be going back and forth through a lot of the areas of this chapter to try to get from one area to the next. It's kind of built circularly in that regard. So this is kind of like the central chamber. This is the Hall of Balance. So the point is I'm supposed to try to get the water to flow down to push the statue down to open the back door. In order to do that, I need to get these kind of keys. They call them tablets, and insert them in certain slots. But they're gatekept by these bosses. So the first boss is an electric worm. Now this is another boss that was really infuriating for a lot of people casually. I know a lot of people quit this game at this boss because of just how annoying it is. Oh my gosh, he's giving me a shit pattern. Yeah, so I don't want that to happen. But it's okay. So when he comes out, goes back in and then comes back out again, yeah, that's really slow. I wanted to just keep slamming me, but he decided he wanted to do his own thing. So yeah, that's the first boss. A lot of people rage quit at that boss because casually they were really annoying to deal with, because, you know, especially if you didn't know how. But you can actually just jump over a lot of their attacks and punish them with the Dragon Sword Gleaming Blade. So we got the first tablet. We also got a chest full of money. I still need a lot of money in this game, or in this part of the run, because I do need to upgrade the Lunar in this chapter. This is where we're going to start using that weapon for a little bit. And yeah, it's very important. So here we put the first tablet, which is the red tablet. It's going to drain the water in a room, which is actually a room that we need to access next. So we couldn't access the room until we drained the water from it. So we have to do this whole progression thing in order to get to that room. And in that room, there's another progression item which lets us get to the next tablet. So this like I said, this chapter has a lot of like circular pathing where you're gonna go back and revisit a lot of areas, and it can be quite confusing. The whole level layout is very much like a puzzle, which for me I think is absolutely awesome for like a platformer game, which at its heart this game is an action game, but it is also a platformer, and it really holds true to those roots. There are other versions of Ninja Gaiden, or the later versions of Ninja Gaiden 2 and Ninja Gaiden 3. They focus more on the action aspect of the series, which is why I think this one is the best one, because it is so much more unique in that it has great action, but it also has the platforming elements that just make Ninja Gaiden great, which is, you know, one of the things that I really loved about the NES era Ninja Gaiden games too. So they really captured the entirety of the series in this game. So here's the a lot of people who didn't rage quit at the first boss rage quit at this one because it's the same boss but worse because there's two. Yeah, as annoying as the first one is, this one is just even more annoying, as you can imagine. I do not like when they shoot lightning. Really? Okay. Alright, so we got one down. And there's the second one. So now we're just going to try to move through these caverns, which this is one of the areas that has like really weird walls. That's a really cool skip too that I like to do. Well, everyone likes to do it because it's really cool, where you just kind of run up into the walls like that. And it looks really cool and it's a lot of fun to do. You just wall run and then you spam A to jump up. So here I kind of want to avoid jumping in certain spots to make sure that I don't grab onto those pillars like that. But yeah, so we get the second pillar, or the second tablet, the blue stream tablet, and we're going to lower the water again so that we can progress to the final area of the level. Oh. Pick up some more incendiaries here because we're actually going to use those in the boss fight coming up. And we have a wall to break. And now we're back where we started. We couldn't go back the other way because, if you remember, during the cutscene with the double worms fight, the wall actually broke and caved in behind us. So we have to go around there, break that wall open so that we can move forward. Now we're going to go back through this door, but this time we're going to go up to this door here. And then there's going to be a Muramasa shop here. We're going to use that to upgrade the lunar. So I have 9,000 essence. I need 6,000 to upgrade it, so I had plenty. And then would buy as many elixirs of spiritual life as I possibly can. We're going to be using a lot of great elixirs in the next chapter. So I wanted as many as the small elixirs as possible, so that I can still have some healing even after I use all my great ones. So this one, there's this fight that comes in where these enemies spawn. There's actually, it's called a Fiend challenge. There's actually 60 of those enemies that'll spawn if you try to kill them all. We don't need to do that. It's completely optional, but it is something cool to note that those exist throughout the game, and you can do those Fiend challenges to get a special prize. A lot of it is additional health or Nympho slots. So normally you can only get up to 5 Nympho slots for the normal progression of the game, but like I said, we have a dupe. Wow, okay, that's very rare that happens, where that platform swayed back to a point where Ryu couldn't get on to the other platform. So here's a skip, call it the tree branch skip because it skips going to the tree branch on the other side. I know speedrunners super imaginative with their skip names, right? And gonna do this. Spirit of the Devils, going to use a Jewel of the Demon Seal on Inazuma, which actually is a level up for the Nympho. Inazuma we actually picked up a little bit earlier in this chapter, after we killed the first worm. And that's going to be very important coming up later. But yeah, now we have Pazuzu, who's the boss fight of this chapter. And Ryu is going to miss his incendiaries and get hit a bunch. Very cool, Ryu. Wow, he's just gonna miss all of his incendiaries. Very cool. Thank you, Ryu. Yeah, you can tell Ryu's great at his aim. And there's Pazuzu. So yeah, that fight is pretty straightforward. You kind of want to bash his knees in until his head falls down, and then hit his head as much as you possibly can. There's a trick to actually having Ryu angle the incendiary shurikens up towards his head as well. You actually want to hold down on your left stick as you press the projectile attack. And for some reason, that makes Ryu target upwards. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So this is the swimming chapter. So for some reason, in the late 90s, early 2000s, every action game thought that they needed a water level. Not sure why, or who thought it was a good idea originally, and no one really executed it properly or did a really good job ever, so I don't know why they kept doing it. But this is it for this game. This is the water level. So we're going to be swimming a lot. There's not a lot to be talked about here other than what I'm going to be doing is spamming A to get Ryu to swim faster. And whenever I go around a corner, I'm going to be spamming the right trigger in order to reset the camera so Ryu takes the corners at a tighter angle. The other thing I should mention is on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see my O2 meter as it goes down the longer Ryu's underwater. If that hits 0, Ryu's health will start to drain, which is actually why we need all the health potions that we picked up that I mentioned. There's going to be a part where we're going to do something called the deep dive, where we're going to swim a very long distance without going up for air because it's not going to be an option for us, and we're going to chug a bunch of elixirs. So if you're ever drowning, remember, drink a bunch of fluids and you'll be okay. Don't do that. So the other thing I want to mention though is there is a way to actually avoid the issues with the O2. The game tends you to pick up what's called the oxygen tank. We skip it because it takes about a minute and a half to get, and yeah, so we just swim down without it. Oh, hey, what's up, Zana? And so this part is where spamming right trigger to tighten around corners, it comes into play. And we want to take these corners as tight because this is a part where we're going to probably lose a lot of health. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, because our oxygen is going to run out before we get out of this like little maze. Yeah, I'm gonna take a lot of damage here. That's okay. We will be okay. I should note that if I take lethal damage underwater, Ryu will just die. It's considered a hazard death. There's no talisman of rebirth for that either, which can be really scary. In the next coming part. So I do equip Inazuma here because I needed the silver and gold medallions, which I finally got, to open the door to the next area, which I'm going to place here. But then there's also these mosquito fiends here. I'm going to just kill them with Inazuma to get some red essence. Or, sorry, not red, blue essence to get some health. Red essence is actually Nympho. which I think I neglected to mention earlier. We will want a bunch of red essence later on in the run, but for right now I just want a blue. I didn't get a whole lot though, unfortunately, so I will have to heal an additional time, but it's still faster than picking up the oxygen tank. So here we're going to swim towards the big hole in the ground, which is going to lead us underground and underwater some more. And we're going to visit a familiar place. Like I said, this game goes around on itself quite a bit, and it's really cool to see it, how it all, like, how every area connects to each other. So this is the underground passage where we fought the bone dragon, and you can see his remnants there. He cracked a hole in the wall, and if you remember, there was a cutscene before getting to Alma where water flooded in. This is that water. This is where it came from. That's really cool, and how it broke open all of this area and all of this stuff. So I will kind of need to focus on what's happening here as well, because I need to pay attention to my pathing, like, to make sure that I don't run into anything, as well as my oxygen and my health. So give me just a moment and to kind of focus on what's going on. Like I said, I will need to heal an additional time, like right after my oxygen leaves. Okay. And that's just to make sure that I don't ruin my menuing in other spots. See, it's kind of tense because my health is going to get really low. If I run into something or if I heal too early, then I won't have enough healing to get to the end. So I have to make sure that I do it at the right spots. All right, we made it. Now this is one of my favorite boss fights. Music design and the boss itself is actually just great. This is Doku. So Doku kidnapped Rachel. You can see her over there. That was after we defeated Alma. Doku gets really mad that we defeated Alma and is trying to use Rachel to boost her Alma's power. Oh, he is hitting me a lot. So we're going to use the Lunar against him to try to dodge as many of his attacks as we can by just going over his head. He did give me a few bad patterns, and I admittedly didn't react 100% well, but that's okay. The fight went all right. Using the Lunar on him is a lot safer than our old strategy of trying to mash Gleaming Blades against him. This is a much better strategy. So now we get to chapter 12. This is another one of the longer chapters in the game, and very movement heavy as well. We're going to start off with a skip that skips a puzzle where we have to go around and move these platforms. By doing some wall running and some other clever movement in the air, I can just get to the final lever right away, which raises the back wall platform, which lets us progress. So we don't have to do any of this puzzle at all with that skip, which is pretty cool. There are a lot of really cool skips and tricks in this chapter as well. The movement wise, this is one of the tightest and most execution heavy chapters in the game, or in the speed run for sure, especially since there is going to be a hazard that Ryu just cannot seem to avoid. He just loves it so much. We'll cover that when we get there. I should also note that something else that's in this chapter is a lot of healing potions. So if you remember, we used a bunch to get to Doku in the last chapter. So the fact that this chapter has a bunch right at the beginning to replenish our healing is really important. So we're gonna pick those up to replenish our healing. Oh. Oh, that was a little shallow. That's okay. So you can actually get up there without having to grab onto any ledges at all. All right. Whew. Now the movement through this area with the lava is where it's really tight. Ryu loves the lava for some reason. He just wants to take a bath in it all the time. Oh my gosh, stop. Stop. See, he wanted to target the dinos and go into the lava with them. I guess they reminded him of his rubber ducky, and he was just like, man, a bath with my rubber ducky sounds really good. So this next part is also a really cool skip, so hopefully we get it first try. Nope. Nope. Ryu decided he didn't want to change directions. That's okay. And then he decided he wants to go into the bath again. Oh my gosh, Ryu, what are you doing? You... There we go. So that's how the skip works. Normally what you want to do is actually go on across the seesaw, which leads you up to a cave entrance up the other way and then all the way around. We don't have to do that. We can just wall run, use shurikens, helm splitter up to the top. And Ryu again wanting to go into the lava. I am going to actually have to heal here because I'm going to take a bit more lava damage. This is intended for me to do another wall run there and get to that top platform, which is another skip, because normally what you're supposed to do is spawn a platform and go all the way around through an area that we don't even see in the run at all, because it's just too slow. We don't want to go slow. Come on, thank you. Okay, I'm going to heal because we are going into a boss fight here. This is Jotunfrau. She's a big slow lug, but she does a lot of damage. So I want to avoid her attacks as best I can. Oh. By doing forward YY with the lunar, I can actually avoid most of her attacks as well. And that went pretty well. So now we get the Eye of Ice, which is this chapter's progression items. We'll have one Eye of Ice, and since we're in the magma caverns, I'll give you 2 guesses as to what the other eye is going to be. Come on. There we go. Okay. We'll put the cog in here. Which, that's the item that we made before and that we went and picked up. So now we have another worm. This is the fire worm though. Unique properties of the fire worm. Does quite a bit more damage than the electric worms. Has a lot less health. And does this ring of fire attack that's really fucking annoying. But that's okay. We take him down. So if you guessed the Eye of Fire, you were right. Except that it's Eye of Flame. My bad. You know, same thing. Fire Flame. I never really read the name anymore because, you know, it's too slow. Gotta go. Ah, okay. If you jump at the right time, you can actually end up right next to the door. So now that we have the Eye of Ice and the Eye of Flame, we're going to do this real quick. Just gonna heal up and equip the Lunar. We're gonna insert them into this last door, and lo and behold, we're gonna have another boss fight, guys. Third boss fight for this chapter. We're in this big, huge lava pit, and we're gonna pick up this statue, which is gonna spawn the boss. This is the third statue that we get, and we get the Fire Dragon Smaugen. Oh, great. Okay, hold on. I do not want him, by the way, to do that wall of fire or those fireballs. The fact that he did it was really annoying. But we still took him down pretty quick. So yeah, we just jump into the lava, cast fire wheels, and beat him with our stick. So we get our final Lives of the Thousand Gods, final health upgrade. And then we equip Inazuma, and we move on. And that is the end of that chapter. There was a time when getting a low 9-minute for me was really hard. So the fact that I'm getting like mid 8-minute chapters now in a marathon with bad RNG and bad movement, it says a lot about how far I've come with this game. I played this game quite a bit, but mostly in the last 4 or 5 months has been where I've really like put in a lot of time into this game, and yeah, there's come a long way with it, and it's a really fun game. It's a great game. If you have an Xbox, if you have any Xbox, you can play this game. If you have the OG 360, Xbox One, or Xbox Series X or S or whatever, you can play this game. I'm currently playing it on the One X. It is available on the Xbox Game Store. To buy, it's like $10. I highly recommend, if you have an Xbox, getting this game. If you do not have an Xbox, however, if you have a PlayStation or you have a Switch or a PC, you can get the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, which isn't, unfortunately, Ninja Gaiden Black version, but it is a similar version of this game called Ninja Gaiden Sigma, and it comes with also Sigma 2 and Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, which are also good games on their own. I highly recommend that as well. I played a lot of the Master Collection when it came out. It just came out recently this month, about 2 weeks ago. Highly recommend it. This game is great. The series is great, and if you're interested in picking them up, definitely do it. Like, you will not regret it. And if you're interested in speedrunning the game as well, we do have a Discord for all the Ninja Gaiden games. You can find it on any Ninja Gaiden leaderboard on speedrun.com. Yeah, had just throwing out my little plug for that out there. So this chapter, if you noticed, we've been to these areas before. This is the revisit chapter. We're going to be going to a lot of new area, or a lot of old areas that we've been to, and seeing a lot of familiar sights, trying to get back to where we were before. This stupid drawbridge. This is the third time I've had to lower this drawbridge, by the way. I don't know who keeps raising it back up, but I lowered it, you know, 2 other times. You'd think they would learn and just, like, leave it down for me, but nope. They decide they want to raise it again. They know we're trying to go fast here, and they're like, nah, I can't have that. So, a lot of this chapter is movement until we get towards the end. Then it's going to be more fighting. And in fact, another one of the best boss fights in this game. There's a lot of really good boss fights on this. Like, I shit on a lot of the boss fights, like the worms, and a couple of the other ones. But they're actually, when I played this as a kid, I had a lot of fond memories of beating those boss fights, like, despite their difficulty and despite their apparent BS. They're really fun to play, and there's something rewarding about beating all of them. But this next boss really gave me and a lot of people, when they played this game, a lot of trouble, a lot of grief, because she's definitely one of, if not the hardest bosses in the game, period. And especially at higher difficulties, the bosses get even more and more difficult. This boss at, like, the higher difficulties, or in the highest difficulty, is absolutely insanely difficult. And she can easily take my talisman and kill me right here, and I'm being very cheeky by not saving prior to fighting her, but we're gonna go at it. This is Awakened Alma. So Rachel's been captured. Her blood's being used to power Alma up by Doku, and this is Alma's awakened form. So she can, like her earlier counterpart, where she can just dodge our attacks. This one, she can just hyper armor our attacks, and just anytime that we try to do damage, she can just say no. The exception to that is that if we do happen to knock her down, she's guaranteed to take damage. So we're trying to knock her down as best we can. Okay. Yeah, if you spam start, you can actually save before you take the last, or you can actually open the menu before you take the last little bit of damage from her grab, if she's high enough up. Should have shuriken there. Yeah, she keeps grabbing me, which is not nice. Alright. Yeah, her grab does. This is the boss, one of the bosses that I mentioned earlier, that if we don't grab any of the health upgrades from the start of the run, she'll just kill you. One shot. Almost any attack. Even through blocking, she can guard crush you and just deal a ton of damage. And yeah, she will ruin your day. And she is a run killer as well. She can just take all your time, or take all your healing, or both. And yeah, she's brutal. So next we place these tablets into this pyramid, and it's going to spawn these little guys, which are the pill bugs. Everyone will have a wave of 30 of them. Because I have extra Nympho, I can actually spam an additional time, so I don't have to worry too much about getting as much Nympho normally. I'm going to try to kill them with some UTs. Oh. Just to get a bit of money. Oh, nice. I got a lucky Nympho drop right as the last one dies. That's pretty cool. We will have to do another wave of those pill bugs, so actually getting an Nympho drop there is pretty good. And in fact, if I don't have to use a potion for any Nympho, then that would be most ideal. Oh, that was dumb. Okay. That's totally fine. We got plenty of money there. So once we place this tablet, that will end this chapter. As the pyramid raises up, we have kind of like a long cutscene going on. So this was chapter 13. There are 16 chapters in the game. The next chapter is pretty short. Chapter 15 is by far the longest chapter in the game. And then the final chapter is actually really, really short. So we are coming up on the end of the game here. Should be about another 20 minutes or so. Oh. As long as I don't die and have to start over like from an hour ago. Now, I have save files, so if that does happen, we can load up one of those, but yeah. So this chapter is the Labyrinth. There's some aspects of this chapter which I will go into as they become relevant. The first part I want to talk about is we're going to actually get introduced to a character. We're not going to see him in this cutscene because I'm going to skip the cutscene. You better believe it. But his name is Marbus, and he's the leader of the Underworld, and he guards the Holy Vigor Emperor. So he summons a bunch of fiends. So he brings us to the Underworld Realm, which is this place right here. But all I'm gonna really do here is I'm just gonna spam Nympho. There's not really much else to talk about. You can see like this is the power of Nympho, and Inazuma like just totally clears those waves in one shot. So I just spam it as much as I possibly can and clear them as soon as the enemies spawn in. And that's just the power of that Nympho and why we leveled that one up. Oh. So here we got a lot of money. So I'm going to buy as much of those arrows as I possibly can. I'm going to buy as much healing as I possibly can. And I'm going to buy a Great Spirit Elixir. And that is the last major shop of the run. I'm going to re-equip the True Dragon Sword. We're going to pretty much use this the rest of the time. There's going to be one other point where we'll equip the Lunar, but it'll be very brief. Oh, something I should mention, sorry, that I neglected. Before we went to fight Awakened Alma, I actually got the True Dragon Sword. There was a little cutscene where Ryu took a jewel off of a gravestone, which was a gravestone of one of his childhood friends that Doku killed. She had the Dragon's Eye, which he puts into the hilt of the Dragon Sword to turn it into the True Dragon Sword, which is now this glowing sword, which is the level 4 version of the weapon, essentially. It does a ton more damage, has a few extra moves, a new and improved ultimate technique, which has a super long animation. So we'll try to avoid that if we can. But yeah, it does a ton of damage, and it is easily one of the best weapons in the game. I see another one of my good friends in the chat. Hello, Gala. I had to say hi to my friends, guys. Sorry. So here, I will mention, so I kind of briefly touched on landing jumps before. Here they become really important. So on landing jumps have iframes. Ryu can't be grabbed on certain... while he's in the air, Ryu can't be grabbed. And on landing, Ryu has iframes. And I could cancel the lack of iframes by going into another jump, which gives Ryu more iframes. So as long as I do it right, well, which like I said is nearly frame perfect, I won't get grabbed by the fish at all. Oh my gosh. Hopefully though, I won't grab onto the wall either. Yeah, so that's what on landings do when you do them right. Oh. And here we go. We are going to the boss fight. This is Spirit Doku. So we already killed Doku. He became a spirit and came back to haunt us. So we get to fight him again. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to try to Gleaming Blade him. Oh my gosh. And he is wanting to take our talisman. Fighting him up close is really scary, so I'm backing off for a little bit. I'm gonna let him come to me and play it safe. Alright, now we'll get close to him again. Okay, that was a bad idea. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, so we lost our talisman because I was being dumb. That's okay though. You can just back off of him, wait till he charges at you, and jump towards him and do a Gleaming Blade. Punish that way. You can also, if you roll his attacks, and you can gleam him after you roll his attacks if you fight him close. But the issue with that is when Doku throws his sword, he's invulnerable to Gleaming Blades for some reason. And he's got a really fast grab. So those are the two scary things to deal with. And he also has this really long attack animation that he does. Now, I'm actually full up on Great Devil Elixirs. There's one that's over there that's an extra one. I didn't use any, so I can just avoid picking it up. Okay, I want to pick this up. I need this because it's a key. So, Doku was the last obstacle to getting to the palace of the Holy Vigor Emperor. So, we beat Doku, and he gives us the Fiend curse, which is why Ryu's skin is now blue with like these lightning bolts on him. And we gain access to the palace. So, the core of the Imperial Palace is a gauntlet that we're going to have to fight through. This is one of the things that we've been setting up for the entirety of the run, why we've been picking up our devil elixirs and things, is so that for this moment right here, because we're going to just spam as much Nympho as we possibly can to deal with these enemies. Because trying to fight them normally takes quite a long time. And this is where I really want to hope to get red drops, which are these ones right here. I got one here. Ooh, I got another one. I'm concerned I didn't get both of them with that. And I did. Okay, cool. So, and this is also why we picked up these statues throughout the run as well, because we need to place them in each of these floors. If you forgot a statue, you have to go back and get it, because you can't progress without them. So do not forget your statues. There's really only two that you can forget. Because the other two are tied to necessary progressions, or natural progressions anyways. Oh, and I don't have any Nympho. So I'm gonna use Great Devil Elixir. Oh, nice. Oh my gosh, can I? Where was my last save? Let's see. We might have to load a save file. Yeah, I got pushed into a corner there. I should have just Nympho'd. I was trying to be greedy. Gotta wait for it to load. Sometimes you get a loading screen like this. Oh, we're at chapter 3. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and load a save file. Because it would take me about 2 hours, or take me about another hour and a quarter minute to get to where we were. Alright, so I'm gonna have 6 Nympho and level 3 Inazuma. So this is gonna look a little different, but it's okay. We'll finish the run. And in the save file, I already have the key, so I don't need to go pick that up either. Moral of the story, you guys, don't be greedy. Just Nympho. Just do the right thing in Nympho. So level 3 in Inazuma is a little different because it actually one-shots these guys. That's the main difference. But yeah, so we cleared the dinos, and we put the statues in. Don't forget the statues, guys. Statues, forgetting bad. Don't do that. So something I will also mention that I actually haven't touched on at all is the timer that I have up on the top left. Okay, now the fish are gonna grab me. That's great. That timer is called the karma timer. It shows our score, it shows our number of kills and our combo, and it shows how much time is left, or how long the fight takes, essentially. Which is really useful information because we know exactly how many enemies are going to be in each fight. So the first room has 8 enemies. This room has 22 total enemies. So I know exactly when I'll be done, essentially. So you see, I killed that guy. There's 21 left. So that means there's one of those pill bugs left, and just finish him up. So I don't have to waste time wondering if I have any enemies left after I kill the last one. I can just go towards where the statue is and place it. And it's really useful throughout the run. I should also note that it is in the rules of the speedrun to have the karma timer up the entire time, from start to finish, because it does, we can see changes in score, and if someone were to try to like fake a run, which I don't know of anyone that has done that yet, but if someone were to try, like, the karma timer would prevent them from being able to actually like accurately, or like be able to splice it with, like, without it being noticeable, essentially. So this room is one of the scariest. There's going to be 2 of these crab fiends. They have a grab that can pull you to the floor below. So I'd have to go back up the stairs again. That's really scary. I don't want to do that. Oh my gosh, why? Oh, stop, please. And yeah, they're just gonna like laser spam me too. Alright, that was the last room in that part of the gauntlet. So now we come up to the top floor. We have another kind of smaller gauntlet. And you can see Marbus. I mentioned him earlier. He's up there sitting on his throne. He's a little goat dude with the giant wings. So much like last time, we're just going to spam Inazuma as the enemies spawn in to deal with them that way. Now we have another Hedgehubis fight. This one's going to go similarly to the other ones, except this one has a lot more health than the other ones, so I'm not going to be able to one cycle or two cycle it, unfortunately. You can see I'm doing Gleaming Blades with level 4 Dragon Sword, and you know how much damage it's been doing based off how the other ones looked. So yeah, the fact that it's kind of like grazing this boss is, yeah, it shows you just how much health it has. If you have an Xbox 360, you can play this game. Sometimes the tentacle takes a little bit more to kill. So getting a red is really cool. I do need more Nympho. We have another wave of the Shadow Fiends, but this wave is different because Marbus is going to shoot at us during it. Sometimes Ryu likes to target Marbus as well instead of the enemy in front of him. That's what he was doing there when he was attacking the air. Now we have a Jotunfrau refight as well. I don't like it, Marbus. Please stop asking me that question. He always asks me how I like this, and I never like it. This is very rare that I will get a passive opener on this Jotunfrau, where she'll just do nothing, and it's great. This is the one attack I don't want her to do. She didn't do it earlier. It's Ice Slams. She becomes invulnerable during it. So, yeah. But other than the one Ice Slams, she was actually really good to us. She was really nice. So now we come into the final portion of this segment, which is the actual fight with Marbus himself. I want Marbus to shoot fireballs at me and then do a corkscrew like slam attack so I can get him into a an infinite loop. So he did it right, so now I'm going to focus on doing the loop. And that's Marbus. So yeah, when he does the fireballs into the slam, we can hit him with it Inazuma right as he lands, and then hit him with XXXY, and yeah, it just unlocks him. So now we're coming up to the final boss of this chapter. Remember, we do have one more chapter. And the final boss of this chapter is the Holy Vigor Emperor himself. which has a really interesting form. It's kind of a gimmicky fight. You're given this platform that floats. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to spam Gleaming Blade to try to break the body parts as quickly as possible. So getting those two right off the bat, really good. Come here. And that was actually pretty good. So now we need to equip the explosive arrows as well as fire wheels. We're going to try to shoot the skulls in a way that we break as many clumps as possible. That's annoying. His skull came really early there, or maybe I wasn't paying attention at the time. Jump close to me, please. Okay. Well, he's jumping on top of me, so I get to show something really cool off. A lot of people are going to love this. Sorry, headphone users. Yeah, that's actually an older strat. We used to jump into the lava and just spam Inazuma, which is great because you got to hear all of the skulls break at one time, and it was really loud. Yeah, and I love doing that. Personally, it's not faster by any means, but it's just really cool. It's not really necessarily slow either, I should mention, but yeah. So I'm not gonna really pay much attention to the in-game time for this chapter or the end because it doesn't really matter much anymore since, you know, loaded the save, but that's okay. So now we're at the final chapter. There's no point saving here. You can see Ryu is no longer blue. After defeating the Holy Vigor Emperor, he's cleansed of the Fiend curse. I do want to re-equip fire wheels. And this is one of the more difficult platforming segments. It's also going to give go into one of the more difficult fights in the game. Oh, that was scary. I thought I was gonna fall there. And honestly, probably one of my favorite fights as well. Doku and this fight are very close together for me as far as like favorite. So I don't want to spoil who it's gonna be, but we're coming up on it anyway, so I'll just tell you. We're going to be fighting Mirai. That's right, Mirai, the chapter 1 guy who is training Ryu. He's actually wants the Dark Dragon Blade for himself, so he steals it, becomes corrupted by it, and we need to stop him. And he is beating the crap out of me. I do have the talisman in the save, so even if he does kill me, not that big a deal. I have a do-over. But basically what I want to do is try to use Fire Wheels and Gleaming Blade to damage him and avoid his attacks at the same time. When he jumps up here, I'm going to throw whatever projectile I have equipped. It just so happens I have Incendiaries equipped. And that's time. Sorry, I should have mentioned that was time. This fight is really intense, and so I kind of have to focus on it even while I'm talking about it, since there's a lot going on. But yeah, that's Ninja Gaiden Black. This cutscene is really cool. I would like to watch it if we possibly can. But this fight, this game is absolutely top notch. And we'll just finish out the cutscene real quick.
Great run, great run.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, this part always gets me because, you know, Ryu and Rachel have gone through this whole journey of like, dealing with Doku, the Dark Dragon Blade, you know, stopping the end of the world, and Rachel reaches out to Ryu all lovingly, and Ryu's like, it's over, turns into a bird and flies away. It's just, you know, really touching. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for having me come here to do the run as well. It's a lot of fun. This game, I don't know why it's not letting me. There we go. But yeah, so if you're interested in running this game, like I said, it's available on every Xbox platform. We have a speedrun Discord. Definitely check it out. Awesome community, great people. But yeah, it was really fun to be able to show the run. Don't look at the in-game time. It doesn't. This is scuffed. It doesn't matter. But yeah, other than that, that silly death. Yeah, it was a good run. It was a lot of fun.